Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of DownTime. Putting 3 episodes out in one day, anyone who's trying to watch all 3 at once must be sick of me at this point, right? Anyway, this is part 3 of the Huskarl, so it's covering the only other archetype for the class, which is the Runelord. If you haven't at least watched the first part, then I suggest going back to do so, otherwise sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. As best you can, at least. The Runelord feels like it has a unique playstyle. To me, it focuses on creating temporary enchantments to aid allies and to hinder enemies. I won't spend too much time on trying to explain it here, I'll just let the features speak for themselves. Combat Enchanter is the bread and butter of the archetype, so it makes sense to gain access to it at 3rd level. It has a few aspects to it though, so I'll go through each part individually. The idea of this ability is pretty straightforward and self-explanatory though. To begin with, Wisdom is the spellcasting modifier for the Runelord. It works as you would normally expect, so I won't get into the details of that for now. Additionally, the Runelord learns 2 cantrips of their choice from the following list: Blade Ward, Chill Touch, Flame Bolt, Mending, Shocking Grasp, and Thaumaturgy. They can select an additional cantrip from that list at 10th level, but that's the extent of their more standardized arcane features. Runic Enchanting is the meat of the Combat Enchanter ability, so I figured that I would give it its own heading. It has multiple parts to the process, so I'll try to explain it as best I can. A Runelord can spend at least an hour to install a dormant rune onto a number of non-magical objects. This number is predefined by their levels, so at level 3 they can install runes onto up to 4 different objects. The amount of time spent to apply the runes depends on how they're being applied. If they're using chalk or paint, it takes an hour. These runes are more easily damaged or smudged, so there is a downside to using them, however. Alternatively, they can spend 8 hours to carve, engrave, or emboss a rune into an object, if they have the associated tools for them. As a quick example, say that you wanted to carve a rune into a sword, you would need to use smithing tools. Once a rune is applied as an action or as a reaction to a creature moving or making an attack, a Runelord can activate it by spending its associated runic point cost. Runes are treated as concentration spells, however, any number of them can be active at once equal to the wisdom modifier of the Runelord. Each rune has its own duration, so the enchantments for the runes will last for the duration once it's activated. The Runelord can use a bonus action to deactivate a rune early. If a rune is damaged or destroyed in some way, it will automatically deactivate. The Runelord regains half of their expended runic points during a short rest, and all expended runic points during a long rest. When they reach their maximum number of dormant runes and carve a new rune into an item, they can either spend an hour to remove the bond between another inscribed rune, or the bond between the Runelord and the oldest carved rune is removed. Oh boy, that was a lot of information. I guess I should explain runes more properly now though, which will round out the Combat Enchanter feature completely. The Runelord has access to a wide variety of runes. However, they have a maximum number of runes that they can know. For example, at 3rd level they know 3 runes, while at 10th level they know 7. A Runelord can only activate runes that they know. And when they gain a level in the class, they can replace one of the runes that they know with another rune of their choice, similar to the spell list for sorcerers and rangers and a bunch of other casters. A rune that has not been activated can be overloaded by spending an additional runic point to what its cost would be. So for example, if you wish to overload a rune that cost 1 point to activate, it would cost you 2 points. The reason for overloading runes would be to achieve a variety of different effects that you otherwise wouldn't be able to perform by just activating the rune. Unless the rune states otherwise, if a saving throw or ability check is required on one of its effects, the DC for the saving throw or check is the Runelord spell save DC. Runes come in 3 categories, which are relatively self-explanatory, so I'll just give a quick explanation and an example of a rune for each, their cost, and what overloading them does. Offensive runes act as they sound, they increase defensive capabilities for those carrying them. These improvements can be anything from granting extra damage dice to mundane damage increases. I'll use the Flame rune as an example. It costs 2 runic points to activate. It adds 1d6 fire damage to each weapon strike for 2 minutes after it's activated. It can be activated for half its cost, so 1 point, to add the damage dice to a single attack round instead. Overloading it, which would cost 3 points, requires the closest creature to make a dexterity saving throw or take 3d6 fire damage. Nothing too exciting, but some of the later ones get a bit more interesting. Naturally, offensive runes are typically applied to weapons. Defensive runes are as they sound. They're similar to offensive runes, save for the fact that they increase defensive capabilities of the carrier. So they add resistances and add other survival abilities. These typically apply to armor, clothes, or accessories such as amulets or rings. For an example, an Eternal Rune costs 2 points to activate. However, it cannot be learnt until the player has 5 Huskarl levels. It grants them resistance to necrotic damage for the next minute, however, if it is overloaded, it heals the closest creature for 3d4. Most runes will have offensive capabilities when overloaded, however, some have exceptions where the runes grant buffs, change how the rune works, or simply grants positive effects, such as the Eternal rune. Finally, utility runes. These runes probably have the widest array of uses, however, a large majority of these runes cannot be overloaded. Similar to defensive runes, they are typically applied to armor, clothes, or accessories. I'll use Vision as an example for utility rune. It only costs 1 point, but it requires being level 10 or higher to learn. A Vision rune grants the holder 30 feet of dark vision for an hour. However, if it is overloaded, its range increases to 60 feet while its duration is halved. Okay, so that's enough time spent talking about runes and the combat enchanter feature. If you would like more examples or even a better explanation, then tell me, and I'll try to explain them as best I can, either in the comments or make another video talking exclusively about runes. Runemaker is another level 3 feature for the Runelord. It grants them proficiency with an artisan tool from the list of woodcarver's tools, leatherworker's tools, painter's supplies, and smith's tools. This is both quite thematic and ties into the runic enchanting feature of the combat enchanter quite nicely. At 7th level, the Runelord gains the Iron Focus feature. It allows them to add double their proficiency bonus to concentration checks made to maintain focus on enchantments as opposed to their normal proficiency bonus. Not too much to say about this, it's just there to maximize the usefulness of the runes. The next ability is at 10th level, Runic Branding. It allows the Runelord to use their bonus action to draw a rune that they know in the air in front of them. As an action, they can make a ranged spell attack against a target within 40 feet of them. If they hit, the target suffers 2d4 psychic damage and must succeed a Wisdom saving throw against the Runelord's spell save DC or be marked with a dormant rune that cannot be activated until the start of the Runelord's next turn. As you can probably guess, this is where the Runelord's more offensive capabilities start to be highlighted and become more useful, allowing runes to be overloaded more effectively for the runes and for runes to be applied to allies in a hurry. The 15th level feature for the Runelord is Dual Activation. If they use their action or reaction to spend runic points to activate a dormant rune, they can immediately activate a second dormant rune for half its normal cost. If the cost of activating the second rune is 1 normally, it cannot be halved. This is pretty straightforward and allows them to activate multiple runes at once, increasing their effectiveness as well as reducing the cost for some runes. Finally, the final feature, and one that I don't actually think is too lackluster, unlike Tower of Defense or the third extra reaction. Permanent activation allows the Runelord to spend an hour to permanently apply an enchantment to an item that has a rune engraved on it. To do so consumes a second dormant rune and half the runic points available for the day. Runes that are permanently activated cannot lose their power if the dormant rune limit is met, so the next oldest rune will instead lose its connection to the Runelord. A permanently activated rune ignores the duration that they can stay active for unless the rune states otherwise. A Runelord can have a maximum of 4 permanently activated enchantments at once, and they can spend 4 hours to deactivate a permanently activated rune, restoring 4 runic points and returning the second dormant rune that is consumed to keep the item active. And that's all there is for the Runelord. It may possibly have the potential to be overpowered, but I feel like I may have balanced it well enough. I won't know until it's playtested though. Either way, I'm happy with how it currently is. If you'd like to try out the Huskarl class, be it the Verger or the Runelord archetype, then feel free to visit the DM's Guild to download it. It's pay what you want, so just download it for free and have fun. Any feedback about how the class could be improved would be greatly appreciated though. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions as to what I should make or cover next, then please let me know. Tell me what you think I can improve, be it about the class or about my videos in general, and enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers. Bye.